final speaker tonight is Virginia Rasmussen. She's a member of the Alfred Village Board and a principal with a program on corporations, law, and democracy. And she also sometimes teaches at Alfred University in the area of environmental studies.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. I have very little on these sheets. Maybe I should just push this up a little closer to the front so that people can see it when I do refer to it. Well, it's a little exhausting, isn't it? All these things we sort of ought to know. A lot of people have been working for a very long time in New York State, struggling to understand many of the issues associated with hydrofracking and what we should do about hydrofracking, including water issues involved in hydrofracking. What do we need to know? What are the risks? How much law do we have to learn? How much hydrology and geology would it be good to know? How do we organize to protect ourselves and our communities? How many letters do we write? Who do we write them to? Well, we better get some more people to write some more letters. Let's have some meetings. Who do we have to get to the meetings? Well, there are hearings we should go to. Who should speak at the hearings? We better have a rally. We need more people. How about a demonstration? Do we need a lawyer? Oh my gosh, we can't afford a lawyer. We better raise money. It's exhausting and it's scary. But I'd like to just raise a positive outcome of all of this work that people have been doing together. For the first time, I would say in 25 to 30 years, we have people coming together in their communities, in their regions, wrestling and making important connections together, deepening their understanding, their mutual understanding, and their commitment to a very dynamic energy, a very dynamic set of relationships critical to our human future. Corporate assaults to nature, to communities, to water, elements of our commons. And what is our role as citizens, presumably self-governing citizens, in regard to this dynamic? Now you might say, well, hey, that's been around a long time. Corporate assaults on elements of the commons, our trying to figure out what to do. I would say that in the 70s, and I've been wrestling with some of these things for quite a few decades, there was a lot of energy around this relationship. And for 25 to 30 years, I have heard very little conversation about this mutually in our communities. But I am hearing it now. It's at a great cost, it's under great threat, but it's happening, and as I say, it's critical to our sustainability and our capacities to hang out on this earth a lot longer. The great threats of hydrofracking cover many elements: community, water, land, local economies, housing arrangements and affordability, infrastructure. It's endless. But it's igniting a passion for rethinking our present and for asking some critical questions. What are the assumptions that our society lives by? And what are the habits we live with that flow from that set of assumptions? Are they serving us? And we are revaluing our commons. We are clarifying that our sense of self is quite tightly bonded to our place, to our landscape, to our social situation, and to our common wealth. A long time ago, beginning of the Green Movement really, in England, there was a fellow named Jonathan Porritt. Some of you might be familiar with his name. He said, and I've remembered this so clearly ever since, the simple truth is that on a finite planet, we will not preserve what we do not revere. We are asking ourselves, is this society we're living in, is this dynamic we're so caught up in at this point reflective of a way of life that will help us preserve and protect those things we revere? We humans are very, very clever. We are so smitten by our cleverness. As someone said, we are very good as human beings at loading the bases. And we have got those bases loaded. But nature bats last. And has there ever been a time that more people have been clearer on the fact that nature has come to the plate? And it's about to start swinging the bat. We've hidden behind our incredible, clever, complex, quite amazing really, systems, economic systems, market structures, finance arrangements, agricultural systems, energy supply systems, and on and on. Very, very clever. But these are human constructs. These are all human constructs. They are not forces of nature, and they must, in order to serve us in a sustainable way, be compatible with the forces of nature. So we're sitting now with some very big questions. How do we preserve and protect our commons, our renewable resource systems? And the second big question is, who decides how we do that? Who decides whether it's done or not done? Who's in charge? Now, Rachel's talked some about the water withdrawal law. That was passed, by the way, unanimously by both houses, Senate and Assembly. Unanimously. Am I right, Rachel?
You are.
Now, because of Rachel's good work, we activists all have to work with one another, use one another's work and build on it. She prepared a wonderful analysis of that water withdrawal bill. And she pointed out 6 key elements of it. I will just rattle them off. Some of them she's already referred to. There is no cumulative impact study required. No cumulative impact. 100,000 gallons can be pulled out at a time by any one remover. No cumulative impact has been asked for. No consumptive impact. As I understand it, a good bit of water used in hydrofracking does not return to the hydrological cycle. And yet, this water withdrawal is going to be used extensively for hydrofracking, and there is no concern about the net consumptive impact of those withdrawals. Third, as Rachel said, it was passed to 4 permit languages. Permit language was clear and the impact studies even completed. Fourth, large permit users get to go first. Well, I'll be darned. What does that mean? What could that mean? Fifth, no hearings. No opportunity for the public to pitch up and say, wait a minute, something doesn't look right here. And lastly, no application fees, no usage fees. Now I ask you, is there a glimmer of intent here? A glimmer of intent that our legislature wants to preserve and protect our common resources?
No.
Is that their priority?
No.
Is that what we see? I don't think so. How do we react to this? How do we react? What do we do? Well, a little nip here, a little tuck there maybe. Oh, please, we could say to them, let's have some hearings. Can you please give us some hearings? Or, golly, would you just let the little users line up first before the big users? That'd be great. What are we dealing with here? What are we dealing with in so much of what Rachel presented? We're dealing with regulatory law, law that is administered through regulatory agencies. It's not democratic law. It's law brought to us by corporations and corporate managers. When did we have our first regulatory agency? Back in the railroad era, the big railroad era. People who were running those railroads knew that people were getting angry. The railroads were disturbing their lives, moving through their villages, setting off sparks, burning them down. There were riots. People were angry. So, the presidents of the railroads got together and said, you know what? We need a way of allowing the people to be engaged. We want it to look like a great deal is being done, when in fact, nothing is really intended to be done, unquote. Regulatory agencies have been with us ever since. There have been times when they've been a little more conducive to people's concerns and people's engagement than others. But for the most part, it is the law of corporate managers. It sends us people scurrying, exhausting ourselves in struggle after struggle after struggle around issues of little consequence. If we work hard enough, we might get that darn well pad placed 500 yards further from the school than they had originally intended. Or perhaps we can get the number of trucks going through our community down to 800 a day instead of 1,000. And it takes a lot of work to even acquire those small accommodations. We carry out these battles one at a time. There are water issues. Let's get a raft of people struggling around water issues. There are noise issues. Oh, got to deal with those. Who's going to work on those? There are land destruction issues. Who's going to do that? On and on and on, especially with hydrofracking, such a comprehensive issue. Our Declaration of Independence, which a lot of us still think has a lot of authority in this country, which it does not, more or less said, all authority rests with the people. And many of our state constitutions also say something to that same effect. Authority rests with the governed. Sounds good. But over the years, very early in our country's history, that authority of we the people has been taken away. A good word to learn is usurped. Usurped by whom and what? Usurped by things we think so highly of in this country. Usurped to a large degree by our Constitution. Usurped to a large degree by our rule of law. And in particular, usurped by the property corporation in this country that has, over the years, taken on right after right after right unto itself and is, at this point, governing us. Regulatory law, which it has designed for us to play in, is corporate law, and we are subordinate to it. It's about lessening impacts. It's about a lot of science and facts. It's not about, yes, we the people want this. No, we the people don't want this. It's not about what we want. Now we're dealing with something like water. And people say, wow, water. That's big. Yikes. What do we do? What do we do? And people are beginning to ask new questions and important questions. Who's in charge? Who rules? Who writes the law? Who does the law serve? Who gets to use the law to put their vision of the future into reality? Important questions that we cannot move ahead toward a sustainable, livable future without asking and wrestling with together. How do we get out from under this minority rule? Rule by the few, rule by corporations. How do we take the offense? Well, I've been asked to just talk a little bit tonight, and I'm really going to do these very, very briefly. What are communities doing to...
It's okay. We can see it.
We can see it. There's a little thing on page
Stuck on my own... I'm sure you're familiar, some of you more so than others, with some of these steps that are underway and that communities are undertaking to try to deal with what they see as enormous threats from corporate assault, corporate activity in their communities. Around hydrofracking in particular, we've seen a lot of communities want time to learn more, work together, decide what's best for them, what they need to do. So they passed moratoria. I am not aware that corporations, certainly in New York State, we don't have a permitting process in place yet, so these have looked to be, worth doing. Clearly, even for a town or a village to pass a moratorium, there has to be some conversation. There has to be some learning. So it's a good awakening process, a warm-up for many communities. Over the years, recent years, last 10 years I'd say, an increasing number of communities have banned certain kinds of corporate activity in their midst. corporate hog farms, dumping sewage sludge on farmland, extracting water from their aquifers to put into bottles and sell to people far away, so forth and so on. So many communities have passed laws that simply ban a corporate activity. This is a little risky. They generally base it on the issues of health, safety, and welfare. But if corporations have sued such communities, and they have, in fact, in some cases, won those suits. Very recently, this week, I think, the city of Niagara passed a law banning hydrofracking in its jurisdiction, and also the treatment of so-called fracking waste within the city limits. Now, they simply banned it. All right, that's all. That was it. They just said, we're taking this action. Other communities have passed rights-based laws or rights-based bans. In this case, what they do is based on the rights to self-governance, based on the rights of natural communities and ecosystems, based on the rights to water, based on the rights of community members over corporations. They will pass a law banning or prohibiting a certain activity in their midst. These laws, rights-based laws, have not been challenged. They would be challenged, in other words, on the basis of democracy and self-governance and people's rights. And corporations have been far less interested in entering these communities and saying, we challenge your right to govern yourselves. We challenge your right to real democracy. Let me, with regard to water withdrawal, let me read just a little bit of the law passed by a community in New Hampshire, Barnstead, New Hampshire, and this was now about 4 years ago. It says, we the people of Barnstead, New Hampshire, declare that water is essential for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, both for people and for the ecological systems which give life to all species. We the people of the town of Barnstead declare that we have the duty to safeguard the water both on and beneath the earth's surface, and in the process safeguard the rights of people within the community of Barnstead and the rights of the ecosystems of which Barnstead is a part. We, the people of Barnstead, declare that all of our water is held in the public trust as a common resource to be used for the benefit of Barnstead residents and of the natural ecosystems of which they are a part. We believe that the corporatization of water supplies in this community, placing the control of water in the hands of a corporate few rather than the community, would constitute tyranny and usurpation, and that we are therefore duty-bound under the New Hampshire Constitution to oppose such tyranny and usurpation. That same duty requires us to recognize that 2 centuries worth of governmental conferral of constitutional powers upon corporations has deprived people of the authority to govern their own communities, and requires us to take affirmative steps to remedy that usurpation of governing power. Ta-da! In New York State, There's one community that has passed such a law in relation to hydrofracking, and that's the town of Wales. Wales has adopted a community ordinance called Town of Wales Community Protection of Natural Resources. In it, it says, it does, by the way, ban, and I quote, any individual or corporation from engaging in the extraction of natural gas or oil, utilizing in whole or in part the process commonly known as, and herein defined as hydraulic fracturing, blah, blah, blah. The bill also recognizes the right of the people to a form of government where they live, which recognizes that all power is inherent in the people. That all free governments are founded on the people's authority and consent, and that neither individuals nor corporate entities and their directors and managers shall enjoy special privileges or powers under the color of state law, which purports to make community majorities subordinate to them. Good for Wales.
Where is Wales?
It's not too far from Buffalo. It's in that area of the state. Now, something we're all pretty familiar with. Yes?
Wasn't there a law just passed up near Ithaca somewhere just recently?
Well, I think what you might be referring to is what I'm now, see if this sounds familiar, what I'm about to throw out now as yet another thing that communities are doing on their own behalf in self-governing spirit. And these measures have very recently been upheld by 2 Supreme Court judges in the state of New York, and I would guess many of you know about them. The town of Dryden, the town of Middlefield, and some others have passed laws based on, in New York State, and this is a good thing right now anyway about New York State. We've got to give a little credit where it's due. We have a municipal home rule law that says that local jurisdictions can zone out heavy industrial activity completely from their town if they feel that this is a danger to health, safety, and welfare. Through the zoning law of the state, and if adopted by that town, they can zone out hydrofracking activity from any place within their jurisdiction. It was not certain that this really would hold up under the courts, and it has under the first line of court defense. It has passed the Supreme Court. It's now going to be appealed by the, in one case, an energy corporation, and in the other case, a leaseholder who wanted to lease their land for hydrofracking. But so far, that zoning law holds. I think it's vulnerable. The state could come along and say, you know what? I think we have to change this municipal home rule a little bit. Gives a little too much clout to local communities. We can't seem to go ahead with our hydrofracking wishes very easily because of that zoning allowance in there. And then the last one is something new, which you may not know very much about, but it's called a criminalization. A criminalizing of hydrofracking, of hydrofrackers, and all hydrofracking related activity. This sounds pretty gutsy, right?
Yeah.
The intent of the people pursuing this, and this is growing in New York State, by the way, is to remove decision-making authority from illegitimate regulatory agencies. Illegitimate, when I use that word, I simply mean they are not Democrats, not democratic law. So therefore, in a so-called democratic country, it's not legitimate law. So, as my colleague liked to put it, and I like to put it this way too because it's memorable, he would always say we need to rip that decision-making authority away from regulatory agencies and put it into the hands of the people. Put it into the hands of the legislature. Now, I know you're going to say, oh my gosh, that bunch? That bunch? Well, they just gave us that water law, right? But that's our job. That legislature is at least a body of democratic authority. It is not, we are not subordinate to it. It is our legislative body. It was created through democratic process. We need to move hydrofracking activity away from regulatory law and into penal law. Make it a crime. Penal law is an arena, a legal arena of sovereignty. It's not a legal arena of subordinates. This would get us out from under minority rule. This is not an easy step. This takes massive organizing, learning, and committing ourselves to new ways of seeing and new ways of thinking. It requires us to understand what those structures and what that history of usurpation was. It requires us to understand more fully who's complicit with it. Now, it's not just corporations. It's our law departments. It's our universities. It's our judges. It's our public officials. It's our legislators. They are all complicit with these measures of usurpation that have been taken to remove governing authority from we the people. They teach it. It's all they know. Their minds are colonized with this thinking. They parrot it year after year. We take it home. We think, oh, all that can be is regulatory law. Oh, all there can be are powerful corporations telling us what can happen in our communities. And what do we get to do? We get to beg and plead and slap them on the wrist. And sometimes we get really mad. We stamp our feet and we boycott. Oh, we can do all those things. That's democracy. That's taking charge. That's being self-governing citizens. I don't think so.
Time to wrap up.
So let me just, in closing, give you a few websites for some more information on these things. For rights-based law, an organization called the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, CELDF, is all you need to know. Look it up on the website. It will really help you to understand more about rights-based law and excluding corporate activity from your communities based on sovereignty and community rights over corporate rights. Criminalization law. This has been, we have a law. This group has written a law. I have several copies with me. Jack Osant is here in the back of the room. Jack is very familiar with this work and instrumental in its creation. The website where you can find that criminalizing law is frackbustersny.org. And lastly, the folks at POCLAD, which is Program on Corporations, Law, and Democracy, have pulled together some of their articles, research about corporate history, constitutional history, activist history, and struggle And on their website, I think it's there now, it's organized and ready to go up. Polclad.org, we have put a democracy insurgency curriculum. It's really a collection of very good articles that give you some understanding and history about Constitution, corporate law, the usurpation of people's rights, and gives people in their community some background with which to go about some of this new kind of activism. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Virginia. That was excellent. We have 2 microphones here. Jenny, you were volunteered, I believe, to. Thanks a lot. So if anyone has a question, one of us will bring you the mic and feel free to answer. Feel free to ask.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to thank the 3 of you ladies that did this tonight. You were all very informative and excellent, and I know it takes a lot of time and effort to do these things, and really want to thank you for that, for being here, and everybody else for being here as well. My question is, one of the other places I've recently heard filed for a permit for taking water was Kenona area, the Cohocton River. What can we do? What can we do to, I understand all these things that we've been hearing now, but for this water withdrawal, is there something, recommend that we could do to get this stopped?
Who wants to field that?
Well, I'm right here. I'm the least of the gals to answer your question, except to say, for heaven's sake, go to your town board, go to your zoning board of appeals, go to your whatever you have there. That somebody's going to make that decision for you unless you push them, right, ladies?
Well, it does show on the SRBC website that there's an application from Crocker Trucking.
Yeah, I didn't know who it was.
So that application is listed as a pending application. So I don't know where it is on SRBC's schedule, but I think we should pressure the SRBC to do like the DRBC and not issue any new permits in New York until the environmental review is completed. We should make a big, we should support the activists in Pennsylvania that are calling for that.
Yeah, question over here.
Hi. Thank you also, you 2 gals, for putting this together. Thanks for the information. It's just a general question. Was Pennsylvania just not ready for the onslaught of people wanting to hydrofrack there, for corporations wanting to hydrofrack there? I mean, there's good people in that state too that are probably kicking themselves right now, wishing they didn't have what they have. Are we ahead of the curve now, and are we in a position as New York better than that? Why is it happening there?
Well, I think you've in part answered it yourself. There's always learning that goes on from people who have blazed a trail. Pennsylvania, in many regards, has blazed a sad and costly trail around hydrofracking. I think you're right. There was not adequate understanding about what the nature of this activity really was. People do have and have had great faith in regulatory agencies. In Pennsylvania, they have the Department of Environmental Protection, I think, DEP.
Yeah.
And they probably thought they'll watch out for us. There'll be avenues for us to keep a handle on this. And it's only after the fact that we realize that those handles are very, very hard for we the people to grab hold of and really make work for us. So I think you're right. I think they are wishing they had taken more time and were in New York's position rather than theirs, or at least many people do.
I just want to thank you guys for coming out again. I'm in the town of Sparta, and we're working on a moratorium right now. It's been a long 4-month haul, and they're still not 100% convinced, but what you've brought to mind is that none of this is done alone in a vacuum by yourself. And we have each other, and we can make networks and make connections and write letters and put this stuff on our Facebook pages and all that. But my question to you is, there's an awful lot of power, an awful lot of people doing an awful lot of work, and it does come down to lawmakers, et cetera, and people watching our backs. Aren't we, by doing all this work, simply working to build better mousetraps? I mean, aren't the big corporations just going to find better ways to get around and make the loopholes that they need to make in order to get away with what they want to get away with? And ultimately, how are we going to really prevent them from doing whatever the heck they want to do, whenever they want to do it? Because we can write all the laws we want, and we have written many laws, and they still don't seem to protect us from this type of activity.
Well, absolutely. Your question, your point is very well taken, and it's what has moved some of the activism that's taking place now, that's just beginning to evolve. It's what's moved it forward, because we realized that, try as hard as we may, it seems indeed that the corporate power, that it has legal power, is able to trump us one way or the other almost all the time. And yes, we worked very hard to keep some corporate assault from happening in this town, and then guess what? 6 months down the line, they're in the town next door, and they want to do it next door. And we start all over again. And yes, do we learn from one another? But yes, we do learn from one another, but there is definitely a wheel spinning going on. This is why the job is so big, and it's so deep, and it requires a huge rethinking of who we are, of what we want our culture to be, and then to rewrite law so it serves the culture and the communities and the land as we want it. That power is now largely in the hands of corporations. I mean, gee whiz, our current electoral system and the big Citizens United case has helped us realize something. I mean, I had on the back of my car for 11 years a bumper sticker. It said, "Abolish corporate personhood." People walk by this bumper sticker and, wow, must be some funny lady who drives that car. What does that mean? Not anymore. Finally, people realize, what? Corporations have the rights of persons? They have Bill of Rights protections. They have the right to participate in our electoral system with as much money as they can afford to put in there, because money is speech. Yes, we are finally finding out these things, not because they just appeared, but because the situation is so dreadful that we are realizing this can't be right. But we can never do anything about something unless we know what that thing is and what that history is. Then we can begin to pull ourselves together to undo that history. That's where we are. That's what frack busters working on criminalization understands. That this is huge, and that we have to pull ourselves together and go to the root of the problem. the roots of our problems. They're not up here. They're down here with issues of legal authority and, of course, legal authority and rights. We know that that rests on things even more fundamental. It rests on our values, on what we care about, on what we revere, on how we build communities and what our relationships are to one another in the earth. That goes before rights. But we know that the situation of our rights reflects very shabby underpinnings in our values, our priorities, our measures of success. All of it needs unraveling and rebuilding.
You mentioned that they don't have any usage fees. Does that mean they're getting the water for free?
It does. But a very interesting, I just saw that the Attorney
General of Louisiana has ruled that it is a violation of the public trust in Louisiana to give the water away. Painted Post is, but the state of New York is not charging anything for it, either for the permitting process or for the water usage fee, whereas both of the river basin commissions do have a charge for permitting and for usage.
Yes, by the way, when they say there are no user fees, no application fees, this is money that would be going into the public treasury. That's another thing to be sensitive to. Wait a minute, who's the financial winner here? Can you believe it? No money for the public treasury. When the corporations hover over our common water and lands, etc.
We're members of a local town committee that are studying this, and my question is, how much time, what is the status of this review that's happening in New York State, and how much time do we have to gather together our resources and study this? We're trying to begin that process, and I'm just wondering what the timing is. I understand that it's being studied in New York State and there's some kind of a moratorium now. How long will that last, and how much time do we have to?
Well, we don't really know. The DEC has received over 60,000 comments on the revised draft supplemental. That's more than they've ever received on anything in the past. But there are rumors from Albany that the governor is pushing them to do something very quickly. So how they could do it very quickly, we don't know, but there are rumors that the governor is pushing that, and for them to at least start permitting something. So, I don't know, Jean or Virginia, you want to say something?
Nope, that's fine.
Well, one aspect of this that I think we're not stressing enough, most of us all are from communities that have relatively small, reachable, face-to-face government agencies. We have a gentleman from the Corning Common Council with us tonight who's going to have some of these questions to answer in the future on water extraction. We should take advantage of this because this zoning law prohibition of fracking is a very real potential reality. It yet remains, I believe, for New York State legislature to pass an ordinance or a law that would indeed recognize local community laws as superseding New York State laws. Is that not true in this regard? If your zoning law prohibits fracking, then that supersedes the ability of New York State to issue permits within that town. True?
That's correct.
Okay.
That,
So-
right now.
So that's something for you.
Right now, that is
all
correct.
of you to do. Go to your local government. Let them know how you feel about this. We are also in this peculiar situation. Just recently in the Leader, there was this issue of the regulators in Pennsylvania were offended that federal regulators were coming in to look and see what they were doing. Tut, tut. Isn't that something that we have to rely on the feds to come and watch the regulators in our local area? Ridiculous. But if we must, we must. So maybe we can get the regulators to fight one another, so we don't have to fight them.
Some of us here are residents of a town that's recently passed a ban. There's several of us here. If there's anything we could do after the, I'm speaking to this lady here. If there's anything that we could do, talk to you after the meeting here and put you in touch with anybody.
What town are you from?
Jerusalem. We'd be so happy to put you in touch with some people.
Yeah, just a question. I actually have been going to my town meetings, and I don't know really where they stand. They're kind of wishy-washy. One says go to the planning board, the other says go to the town board meetings. Can anybody recommend, like, I mean, is it really up to those 8 or 9 people on the board to make this decision? Is there something a group of us can do? I just don't know where to go next with it.
I would caution any community and its citizens against just letting your board take care of something, either your town board or your town planning board. I have nothing against those boards, but they cannot act alone. You're right. They will be fearful to act alone without the strong support of a community behind them, and I'm appreciative of that. Why would they write a ban, prepare a law, a ban, any kind of these measures that we talked about, if in fact they're living in fear that if they are sued, then everyone in the town will be upset with them. So this is why organizing and learning together and grappling with this stuff, neighborhood by neighborhood, is so important, so that you can send your message to those boards, be with them in their work, support them, and then if something befalls you, if a corporation says, hey, you can't do that, then a huge number of people rise and say, yes, we can, and we will carry on in a self-governing way because we believe it's right. Jack.
Yeah, I want to add one thing here. It's towns that should be encouraged by Middlefield and Dryden. I mean, that action has propelled a lot more interest in local towns. And the thing I want to point out is if you get your moratorium passed, which is the lowest level that Virginia pointed out here, once you get that moratorium passed, you have a period of time to further study that issue. So you should be encouraging your locally elected officials that this is incumbent upon them as an ethical and a moral imperative, given the fact that fracking does what it does, to give that township the time to study. And if you don't do that, if you don't get that moratorium in place and the permits are allowed by the state of New York, you're not protected. They can come in and drill your community. So there is an imperative here that people start to organize as quickly as they can in their townships, go to those town meetings, and ask for that moratorium to be considered.
I want to talk just a couple of minutes about what you have just been asking. I'm from Pulteney. Over 2 years ago, we were going to have Chesapeake dumping fluid in an old well in our town, less than a mile from Cuca Lake. We banded together. Many people that are here in this room were there. It has taken over 2 years. We had 3 new people elected to the town board. I got elected supervisor. I've never held an office. I am a Democrat. I'm a woman. It's a very Republican, conservative area. But if everyone gets behind each other, you can do it. And we're working on a moratorium. We're taking it a little slower than I would like it, but we have a moratorium written. We've already got a really great road use plan that the planning board took over a year to write. We're going to convert that into a law format as well to help protect our town. We're not a well-to-do town. We don't have very much money. We cannot afford to have our roads destroyed. We can't afford to have the wineries and our industries, which are very small. We can't afford to have them ruined. So we are working really, really hard and really carefully to have that happen the way that our residents want it to happen. But we did it. And anybody can do it. You just have to work really hard.
I've got a question for Rachel. Isn't there a lawyer or a couple lawyers who have offered to help towns draft appropriate legislation? Because my understanding is you need to do it right, and they've offered to help.
Yes, Helen and David Slotye from the community, it's similar to CELDEP, but it's not the same. Community Environmental Defense Council in Ithaca have been helping a lot of communities in our area. And Mark Schlechter, who was here earlier, is an attorney in Bath who's worked with different towns. I know he's working with Pulteney, he's working with our town of Urbana, he's worked with Wayne. So he's working with them, but he's working with some of towns in Steuben County. He's working in Bath too. So I think Mark and the Slatyes would be happy, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants me to put them in touch with them.
Oh, another really important thing is we got rid of our attorney. And we also have 3 women on this town board now too, and our attorney is a woman. So take that for what you will.
Are there any other questions, or shall we call it a wrap for the evening? Okay, I think we're done. Thank you, everybody.